certainly we've had no end of retail apocalypse stories. It's really getting old. And look, if you are at Sears, it probably does feel like a retail apocalypse. That said, all of our panelists here, I think, would give some very strong arguments that it could never be less the case. But there's something I think everyone should really understand at the core of what's going on in retail. At the end of the day, there's really three things that get you into a store, that get you into a shopping center. It's either value, or it's experience, or it's convenience. Those three things. They overlap in some cases, but that's what drives people into retail space. And when people talk about Amazon and about e-commerce, I think one thing that gets lost is that the initial value proposition of e-commerce, it was value. It was the fact that if I lived in California, I could order something, it would come from their big tax-advantaged warehouse in Nevada, it would take 5 days, but since they were paying industrial rents, that $1,000 TV at the late great Circuit City was going to be $900. And by the way, sales tax, while I was legally supposed to voluntarily declare it, you could put on the head of a pin the number of people who did, right? So all that started to change in 2010. Now I'm a real estate guy, so I'm kind of biased towards real estate. But starting then, that's when Amazon went out and they built, leased, developed 130 million square feet of industrial space. So there is at least 1 million square foot Amazon warehouse outside of every major metro now. 95% of the US, the continental US, now has same day or next day delivery capabilities. To put in perspective how much that is, if it was one building, it would be the size of 2,390 football fields. That's a lot of real estate. That said, it changed the value proposition. It changed it to convenience. So today, if you want to survive in the retail space, what's thriving? Well, it's either experience or value. And convenience if it's the right kind. That said, I want to bring on our panelists right now because all of them are going to have different takes on that basic proposition and essentially what you need to do to survive in the retail world of today. So everyone come on up. Well, thanks everyone. Why don't we start, I just put that idea out there and I don't know if that's, let's face it, that's my theory. I'd like to hear your take on whether or not you think it really does come down to those three factors and really, how does that define what you're doing in the retail space today? So Joe, why don't we start with you?
Sure. The Walgreens always had convenience, right? So we're on the corner of happy and healthy. We're depending upon how you look at it, we're about 2 miles from 80% of the US population right now. So that's a pretty good distribution network. But I have to tell you, things are changing rapidly in our world. A lot of compression in the front end of our store, which tends to be commodity pickup and so forth. And a really Byzantine structure for our pharmacy, which by the way is our engine room. So the vast majority of our profits are driven out of our pharmacy. So we're going through a whole analysis. Convenience, we have that, check. Value, not so much, right? Particularly in the front end. For those of you from New York and Duane Reade, which we own, you use that, New Yorkers use that as kind of the corner grocery store in the bodega. But it's not value, right? And so we are keenly focused on experience right now, thinking about what the future will be for Walgreens in the next 5, 10 years. And a lot of that really hinges on the experience and really about healthcare. And so we'll talk about it a little bit later, how we're approaching that.
We have two drivers at Sephora. Our first one is always experience. We have an internal hashtag that we use all the time that we say, get her off the couch. And we think about how we can make the store environment a really exciting experience. And you want to be inside. If you walk by one of our stores, you notice we probably have the most in a mall besides Apple, and sometimes we have more. And so it's about creating this environment where it's fun. We call it teach, inspire, play. We let people come in, we let people try things on, we give classes, we do free makeovers. We have really cool apps where people can try on makeup virtually and then send it to their friends. We have people that come in for their bachelorette party or before they start their bachelorette party. So it's really about making sure that the experience is really second to none. But historically, we've always been in A-plus malls, which are not really convenient. So our new focus over the past 12 months has really been to drive ease and convenience and driving an off-mall strategy so that we can have the best of both worlds. Being in malls where we know that we'll always have some of the best co-tenants around, but not all malls are created equal, as we know. And then secondly, focusing on getting a little bit closer to our customer. But no matter what type of store we deliver, it's all about making it a fun experience that delivers second to none in that regard.
Yeah, we're definitely a value retailer. Convenience is not necessarily our play, and we're looking at experience right now. We need to improve our experience, and we're busily looking at how do we continue to make it a great place to work. Our shop. The other thing is we're not as mature. We only have 170 stores. We had 57 stores 5 years ago, so we're growing. And so it's not like, we're able to generate a lot of our growth by putting stores and going in the markets where we don't currently have stores right now. But we're definitely a value retailer, and we depend on that. And we have opportunity in the experience area that we're going to take advantage of.
I'd have to say Warby Parker's all three, and we treat each one equally. So vertically integrated as a company, that allows us to deliver value. The experience is really important in every area of the business, and convenience. So they're all equally talked about. Whenever we make a decision, all three are considered. So we have our online business, which is how we started. And really the retail experience was born out of just wanting to learn more about the feedback from the customer. So it was sort of this accidental thing. I'm sure a lot of people have heard the story. But when our co-founders had people coming to the apartment to try on glasses in the beginning, they got this feedback that was so valuable that it became, let's explore this. Let's see how this plays out. And here we are. We're at 76 stores. But our technology plays into the convenience. Even when we're looking for real estate, we're thinking about convenience. You mentioned malls. We're in some malls, but the location within the mall has to be convenient. So I think if you balance all three, it's a really good place to be. But some companies, depending on where they started and where they are, it's a little more difficult to balance all three. It's, we just so happen to have started online and kept those factors in mind through the journey so far. So.
Well, Kelly, being the kind of representative of the clicks to bricks movement, I think all of us are curious here. What were some of the things that drove you guys to get into the bricks and mortar space to begin with? I mean, obviously feedback from consumers, but what are the other drivers that brought you to bricks and mortar retail at a time when, if you just read the headlines, it would sound like we're all abandoning the space.
Right. Early on, we had a school bus that traveled around to different cities just to see, does this make sense? What's going on with retail? Is this something we should do? Even within those cities, parked in different areas of the city to just understand who would be coming in, how well it would be received. Then we opened some showrooms in different areas to understand, what can we learn from visiting with customers? But then the feedback was so amazing. Everyone, really embraced the retail environment. So it started sort of morphing into, maybe they're just looking for a really good retail experience. Maybe retail really isn't dying, and that's where everything sort of shifted. And I think when you look at retail overall, most companies, and I've been with other companies in different phases of their development, And a lot of times, and I'm sure a lot of the people in this room, the focus becomes cut costs, at the expense of the experience. I mean, nobody's saying that out loud, but that's ultimately what started to happen. And I think that, we're at a place now where I think we all realize that that's a mistake, and that now we just need to focus on how do we balance this? How do we make sure our experience, continues in every touch point to the customer? And how do we maintain our costs, maintain our experience, give our customers exactly what they need when they need it, and make it a seamless experience. So it started with just learnings, continuing to learn, and then realizing that our customers really need this retail experience, and we're going to continue to focus on it.
Yeah, I think the headline really should be "Bad retail is dying," because I think it's constantly retail is dying, and people like to focus on that. But is anyone really surprised that Radio Shack went out of business? I mean, you went to go buy batteries there, and they asked you your phone number, and it took 20 minutes to check out, and they were only located in malls for the longest time. Or some bad apparel retailers that you close your eyes and you didn't know if it was 1987 still. So that I think is the difference of being client focused, and I think. It's one thing that kind of ties us all together up here is that it's not about, can we cut costs? How can we reduce? How can we do something for cheaper? How can we have minimum staffing? It's about thinking through the lens of the client and making it a real experience. Now, it doesn't make a difference even if you're a value-oriented, like Norm's company. It can still be a great experience when you walk in there with great product that you want and that you're excited about. And Target is a great example of that. Walmart's trying to get into it. So it's really about just good retail that's thriving. But that doesn't sell newspapers. So instead, we have to talk all about the one bad mall that is shuttered. But there's a lot of landlords and developers out there that are doing some really cool things, bringing WeWork in and bringing other office and hotels and making it an exciting venue. And that's our job as retailers to be a partner with that and to make it really exciting and different. And we don't know what the next phase of retail is going to be, but we know that it has to be something different than it used to be to keep them engaged. Because it's very easy now to say, hey Siri, order this, and it's at your door in 2 days. But we don't ever want to become a commodity. We want that person to be super excited about our product. We want them to be engaged with our cast, our beauty advisors in our stores, and we want them to be wanting as much to get in their car, drive to a location, and have that interaction and experience.
I think that's a good example, Target. That's how Target beat Kmart. So Target was focused on the experience. They were committed to it. I like what they've done recently, and Kmart just went away.
Yeah.
So Norm and Joe, you guys both come from concepts that are a little bit more driven by either value or convenience. How do you see it being a little bit different for you guys when it comes to omni-channel going forward? And what are some of your plans, without giving away your secret sauce recipe, but as you continually evolve going forward, how do you see that mix changing, if at all?
Well, it definitely, our customers start their shopping at their computer at home. So they need to know what's available, what are we selling, how much does it cost, and where can they get it. And then they want to know when they get there, if they want to buy 5 and there's only 4, where they can get the 5th one. So over the last 3 years, we've been, when I started 5 years ago, we didn't even have a website. So we've been working hard on getting that product visibility, and it's helped us. And we're more and more we're improving in that area. And right now, you can't order anything and have it, buy online, pick up in store yet, but we're looking at options there. And then with us, we're home decor superstore, so I could buy that chair for $50. It's expensive to have that shipped. So Wayfair has a bunch of revenue. They're always driving the top side, but they're still not profitable because of the logistics and the shipping costs associated with furniture. So it's a little bit of a different challenge for us as we get into that space.
Yeah, you hear the word omni-channel, multi-channel. It's a little bit of corpo speak. I mean, the fact is there's one channel, and that's her for Walgreens. We need to understand when she is going to come by and use Walgreens. And in the same day, she very well may use our drive-through and may click on a prescription refill on her phone and maybe go online as well, sitting in the kitchen or den or at work or wherever she is. The lady, the female, is largely our key driver. And part of what we need to do as a retailer that started in 1901, that's really good because we're still around, but we also need to recognize that the world's changing exponentially, right? You think about retailers, we tend to be very linear. And as real estate people, think about it. We sign a 10-year lease. What is the world going to look like in 2028? Like, how are we going to future-proof these boxes? That's why WeWork makes so much sense. That's why the gig economy works. It's like, going to use it now? That's fine. But we don't have that. We don't have that opportunity. We have the challenge of saying, how do you take brick and mortar and make it relevant for her so that if she, that we're on brand, whether she's on her phone, in the drive-through, or sitting at home. Those are some of the key challenges. We're thinking about that. The A word is not necessarily a bad word. I heard at ICSC a couple of years ago a new acronym. We all love our acronyms. ADS. Has anyone ever heard this?
Average daily sales.
Amazon Disruption Syndrome.
I was wondering where you're going with all this.
Amazon Disruption Syndrome.
Am I learning new words today,
You are.
Joe?
No, I'm here for you. You know that. But what I would say is that that the disruption that's happening, that we're seeing, the personalization, the one click, all of us experience it, right? All of us love it. And then when we go to work, it's like, okay, now you're going to wait in line at a Walgreens for 10 minutes to get out, and all you have is, shampoo because you forgot it. And all I want to do is get out the door. How do we make that more frictionless, right? That's part of the challenge. And then while we have you in the store, we're starting to think about the experience a little bit more. I don't know, Garrick, if you want to get into some of those examples, but I have some slides.
Yeah, let's get into that. I think why don't we shift and pivot this towards certainly design is the huge monster part of experience that maybe is at its core. So why don't we get into that and talk about how all of you are looking at designing stores differently. So do we have some of the slides that we can put up? There we go. Why don't you tell us about
Sure. So I would give our senior leadership a trophy for courage, right? So this is one of our bomber stores in Deerfield, Illinois. And we went in and tore it up. It's very close to our headquarters. But if you look in the distance, you can see optical, lab services, hearing, and then, of course, pharmacy. But what we did is we took out an entire side of the store to bring in what we're calling our healthcare partners. And so at the very base of what we're trying to do is be the source of healthcare for you. So obviously, if you have pharmacy needs, last year we filled 1 billion prescriptions for the first time. That's a lot of people. We have 100 million, almost a third of the US population as a part of our loyalty program, Balance Rewards. But how do we keep them coming back? And so we have an optical shop now. Sorry. Sorry, Kelly. And
Cheater.
That's okay.
yeah. But again, the good news is I have an employee discount. The bad news is I went in and they said, you actually need progressives. You're getting old. So that happened. Lab services, we finalized a deal with LabCorp. And it turns out people don't like going and giving blood in like C+ light industrial centers, right? They actually like going to a clean, well-lit environment. For those of you that watched 60 Minutes or followed Theranos, we had a little bit of a foray into that. It didn't end well for anybody, at least not Elizabeth Holmes. And so, but what the learning was, we can be that source for you if you have to give blood once a month for testing, or if you're changing jobs or whatever. We have LabCorp now. And then hearing. As everyone talks about Gen Z and the millennials, well, guess what? The boomers, they're getting older and they're still pretty profound. So what we have is this healthcare corner that's a central point, a concierge. You come in, there should be a person sitting in that chair, but there's not.
Cutting levers.
Exactly. Thank you, Norm. And then I think the last photo gives you a little bit of an idea of how we're using kind of the design, the exposure, and really enforcing that when it comes to healthcare needs, Walgreens is really your first stop.
So Kelly, why don't you tell me, as the most recent entrant to the bricks and mortar space, your approach to design, and when Warby Parker opens a new store, what are the elements you're looking for to have in place for the consumer?
One of I guess the basis is that we want it to be fun and enjoyable to buy glasses. That's one of the drivers to the original design of the stores. I don't think anyone can think back in their life and say, wow, I really had a great time buying glasses. Hey, let's just go buy some glasses. But Warby Parker, people want to go buy some glasses. We have an open shelf environment where people can come in, try them on, touch them, walk around, take pictures. We've integrated our software to allow people to bookmark, if they're in the store and they're not prepared to buy, but they want to remember, we can take a photo, we can bookmark that photo for them, so then when they decide they want to buy, it'll automatically start the transaction. It's very important to keep it open, clean, just an enjoyable experience. A big part of it's so interesting because whenever we talk about the store experience, nobody's talking about the people. Everyone's talking about the design and the technology. A huge part of our customer experience is our people. So, you walk into Warby Parker, someone's greeting you, you're feeling welcome, you're getting help. I mean, you barely even know that you purchased your glasses in the end. You're like, whoa, we're done? Wow, that's great. You're walking out the door, you're already getting an email or a text message from our company saying, hey, here's your transaction, and it's just seamless, and that's the whole idea. So very important that along those lines, right? When you come in, you want to enjoy that experience. So what are all of the design elements that go into that? We have to have the lighting just so that you're able to really see what the glasses look like. We have to have we have those big mirrors, on every bay. So, you don't want to go try on glasses and where's the mirror? I want to see what I look like. Sometimes we have photo booths, and that's a lot of fun. And people send it to their family and friends and say, how does this look? So, and then there's the technology. So our POS system was developed by Warby Parker, and that made it easier to go from online to in stores so that the whole experience is seamless. And then it's a library theme. We like library, we like books. The name Warby Parker came from Jack Kerouac's books, two characters, one with the first name and one with the last name. And so, everything that we do within our store, we try to make sure it's aligned with our brand. We'll go with local artists in an area, we'll put up murals. We like to embrace that local culture. Sometimes the millwork and the finishes, we're not going to go into maybe a Houston store and put in terrazzo flooring. We're going to try and get the wood flooring in because it feels more at home in Houston. So it's real important that we embrace the community and we make sure that from the moment they walk through the door, the customers are really enjoying that experience.
Well, cool. I want to get into technology in a second, but Norm, I'm curious, coming from a value perspective, it seems like the value design always was kind of the Sam Walton model, which was, selection, value, but could often be somewhat cookie cutter. What's At Home doing as far as store design? And do you see that equation morphing going forward?
Yeah, well, our growth is through a third, and a third. A third ground ups, a third second gen lease, and a third we buy buildings that, used to be Walmarts, Kmart's, or Targets. And no, that's too small.
we have plenty to sell.
We can't get that small. But that's kind of my point is, we're a self-help environment. So the store really needs to work harder for us. And it definitely needs to be neat and organized, and we work hard to do that. That's part of our profitability model is a self-help environment. So we're evolving it, and we're going to go to we're actually having an initiative right now where we're looking at the store of the future and determining, how do we use technology, do the things that you're talking about, and get the stores to work harder for us. Mm-hmm. And so that's an opportunity. But when you do the second gen development, the buildings aren't always the same size. And, look, it's got 85,000 square feet. It's in a great trade area. I want to get that. Wayne, New Jersey was one that we opened up that was an old Costco, but it was smaller than what the operators were really comfortable with. So we had to take the fixtures higher, and we had to do different things. Well, that took away from the experience. Now, we're glad we have that store, and that store is doing well in a market that, we were just getting into. But we've got to figure that out, the wayfinding that Joe has is something that I like it, by the way, but we need to lower the fixtures in the middle so people can kind of see their way around and they don't get confused. So I just say, 5 years ago when we purchased Garden Ridge, the answer to fixing the roof leak was to buy a bucket. So we've evolved to where we are today. We rebranded it, we painted the stores, we've put new roofs on it, and we've, but now we're at this phase and we need to really go to the next phase. And I think leveraging technology like you guys have it'll be a good opportunity for us.
Well, it certainly seems like everything is morphing. We're not being as cookie cutter as before.
And that's one thing that my CEO and I have had this discussion multiple times, but I said, people don't want us to go in there and make their local retail area look like our at home. They'd rather us fit into where, we protect certain design elements, but other than that, we like to fit into the community as well.
Sephora, I think I'd love to talk real quickly just about some of the partnerships, because I think all of us here have shared with you our belief that you single-handedly saved JCPenney.
Are they saved?
For now.
For now. But tell us about that and some of the challenges of when you're doing some sort of partnership with that and it's creating the space. I'd love to hear about that and what you've come across with Sephora as you've expanded.
Sure. Obviously Sephora's had a partnership with JCPenney for a very long time, and I think a lot of people thought, what the heck is going on, and scratched their head when you think an LVMH brand that's owned by Louis Vuitton and Moet and Chandon and all these amazing luxury retailers, and then you think JCPenney, they don't really kind of go together. But candidly, the reason that the partnership was created was because we wanted to reach a different customer. We wanted to reach somebody who was in a more rural community, who may not have made as much money, who may wanted to shop exclusively at JCPenney. Most of the business that is done inside a Sephora, inside JCPenney, is done on the JCPenney credit card. And so we are reaching a different client by going in there. But we also recognize that we have to make sure that we are all things to all of our clients. And so we also have 463 standalone stores in Canada and North America. That is our focus. And just recently we launched our newest concept called Sephora Studio, which is a much smaller store. It's about 2,500 square feet. We opened our first one in Newbury Street. We've got one in Hoboken. Just last week we opened one with Rick Caruso, and you see some photos in front of you. But it's really kind of that local neighborhood kind of environment. We originally thought it was going to be much more geared towards services, but what we're really finding out is she just wants to be able to run in and grab her mascara, but not a Walgreens mascara, but a $60
good
mascara,
one.
right? Yeah. So that's really kind of what we're trying to do. Our store that you're looking at right there in Newbury is. It's about 2 blocks away from Prudential Center, which is over a $20 million store for us. And many people would be like, why would you cannibalize that? But what we've seen is we've been able to open a 2,000 square foot store 2 blocks away and do almost $4 million. And it's reaching a different client at a different time, and we leverage technology to make that happen. So there's no cash wrap. Everyone rings out with that beauty advisor when she's done. There's a much more cohesive experience that she's having with her when she walks in, and can kind of do that. So our partnership is also with our brands as well. So we're not a vertically integrated retailer. So our merchants are always out there looking for what's hot and what's new, and creating that favorites. And so if you don't know what is the new thing in skincare, is it K-beauty, is it all natural, is it clean beauty, you can walk in and you can easily spot that and see it, and then you can do whatever you want. You can either help yourself, which is how Sephora was really created, to kind of be the anti-department store where somebody was on you like wet on rice when you walked into a department store, and everyone was like, okay, just leave me alone, I'm not interested in trying that perfume. Or you can say, hey, I don't know how to do a smoky eye, or I've never worn a red lip, or hey, I'm going to a...
Norm knows.
Sean and I can both help you after this, so we've got our kits, right? So
Makeovers after
right,
this.
Totally. So what we want to make sure is that we leverage that technology. That's one of those threads, but not technology for technology's sake. And I think there's a handful of retailers who do it really well. Starbucks, I think you don't think about it, right? You just walk up and you scan your phone. You always have your phone. There's many times where I'm like, oh damn, I can't buy anything. I'm like, oh, I can go to Starbucks and get something because I know I have my phone. I left my wallet at my desk. So it's about doing that. We leverage our app in the very same way. 50% of our online sales come through an iPhone, 50%. So think about that. And that's because as we're walking by or nearby a store, our beacon is sending out a message saying, hey, Kelly, did you like that sample that we gave you 2 weeks ago? Or, hey, you're almost out of that perfume you just bought. So it's about leveraging that relationship, but not in a pushy way, but just more of an informative way. And then you realize it, you say, oh, this is great. And then it'll say, you're 2 blocks away from the Powell Street, come on in. And then as soon as you come in, we recognize that you're there and we can help you. So it's about making that, as Joe said earlier, frictionless and making it simple and easy, but in a really cool and fun environment with always the lens on the client.
Let's use that as a way to pivot. So Joe, what are you guys up to in the technology space? Certainly, beacon technology is just proliferating everywhere, but what are some of the tools that you guys are using to engage?
We're catching up. We're not as sophisticated as Jeff and Sephora, but we did a really interesting project. We took our Gainesville, Florida market and literally took it off the grid and told the managers, we're going to tear these stores up and we're going to experiment. We're going to try, really go deep in the beacon side, put together sort of a prime type of membership program, and did a whole host of other items that we're testing. So what I would say is we don't have it figured out, but we've got a really cool playground and we continue to test, and we're in kind of 2.0 there now. But it's vitally important for us to have our customer service reps on the floor with tablets so they can check people out, or they can answer questions or push links to people right there. We know that's essential. I think what Amazon did was really personalize things. So I'll walk past a Walgreens and I will get a text saying, hey, you need to refill that prescription or whatever. And that's kind of nice. Yeah. And it's not pushy, but we have to get even better as retailers. So for those of you who are retailers, if you're not there, I think personalizing is going to be table stakes here before long, yeah, if not already.
How does everyone navigate, though, that fine line between convenient and creepy? I think that's the big question I've got for everyone, because it seems like that's a very personal decision and maybe even a generational one. But anyone have insights on that?
We let the client really direct that, and we spend a lot of time and effort. We have a whole innovation lab that all they do is create those ideas. So for those women in the audience, you guys know if you got a makeover done at a department store or a makeup artist, they literally used to write it on a piece of paper and they would actually use the shade, and so then you would use that when you got home and say, oh, this is how I need to do this. But after about 2 days, that piece of paper got gross, right? And so we took all that and we automated it, and it's all on the app. So then this way, when you come into our store, you don't need to say, it's like a brown shade, or, oh, I can't remember what Sally put on me. It's all right there, and then you can sit there and either order from the convenience of your app or your home, or when you come in, you can show that. Plus, you never have to have a cashier receipt. If you need to return something, it's right on the app. And so we really let the client tell us how far she wants to push, and we're really surprised, even the older generation that wants to have more and more interaction in that way. So one of the things that we have, and you guys can show the pictures of it, we call Sephora Virtual Artists. So it's taking our virtual reality app and being able to do it. We really created it for at home. So if you're taking a lipstick and you're in the store and you're swatching it, well, how do you do that at home and how do you see that? So it was a way that you could literally, kind of like a Snapchat, it's actually in the PowerPoint if you guys can flip to that one. the way that you can literally see what that mascara looks like on you or what those false eyelashes look like on you. And then if you're in the store, you can do it more with a group. So, we'll constantly see 6, 7, 8 people all huddled around, having a good time, laughing, and then taking those photos and sending them off. So because it's essentially a really cool photo booth. And then you interact with our other stores as well. So you'll see, oh, this is what Toronto is doing, and this is what Dallas is doing, and oh, this is really cool happening in San Francisco. So it's just a really great way, and we constantly get feedback from our clients saying, oh, we wish you would do this, and we have that technology, and then we just push it forward. So I think you just got to listen to what the client wants and how they want to do it, and if they're not interested, they opt out of it. But I think people don't really realize, if I had told you 5 years ago, half of the business of Starbucks would be done on their app, you'd be like, you're crazy, right? Now people walk up and they give $2 or $5 or whatever it is they're buying. But now most of their money is tied up, and people are automatically giving their credit card and feeding it, So
Well,
it's
you
just
bring up a
different way.
great point, though. That's happened in just a few years. This stuff is moving so quickly. Kelly, why don't we start with you? When it comes to the evolution of technology in the space and the impact, what keeps you up at night?
I think that we need to just make sure that we don't become complacent. We have to. We're seeing everyone in this room, everyone who's alive today, experiencing this. It's much different than any retail transformation we've seen before because it's happening so fast. It used to take 10, 20, 30 years for things to happen at the rate that they're now happening in a year or two. So, and I think that caught everyone off guard. It was all of a sudden the iPhone, moves the internet access from a computer to a phone that you can hold in your hand. Now everyone has access to the internet, and all of a sudden the game is changing. And anyone who ignored it and said, that's crazy, that's never going to happen, it only took a couple of years for those companies to go down. So I think in our company, when we get together and we plan and we strategize, we're constantly thinking about technology. We have teams working on interesting, exciting new technologies, and making sure that we're touching on every point we can to see if we can improve the experience for the customer. Things are evolving. They will continue to evolve. Technology will continue to change the way we do business. It'll change everything from the clothes we wear, the glasses we wear, the way we interact with the different brands that we interact with. So, one example of something that Warby Parker did is we have prescription check. So folks who, they want to buy glasses, their prescription just expired. They just want to get them now. They don't want to have to wait. So they can use our app to verify their prescription. If it hasn't changed, one of our doctors then reviews it after a series of questions, and then boom, you have your prescription renewed for eyeglasses, and there's no wait. That's convenience. That's something technology has brought to us. When the iPhone 10 came out, our team was already working on a way to use the face recognition software to help fit glasses on customers. So now you can go into this app and you can take with the iPhone X, you can take a shot of your face and it'll tell you which one of our frames are likely to fit the best on you. So it helps with our try at home program, because sometimes, people they're not sure what's gonna look good or fit right on their face, and and that app's very helpful. So things like that, very creative, sort of out of the I hate the term, but out of the box thinking that says, what can this technology that's used for something completely different, how can we then use this to help our customer? Is there a way to change or use or invent some technology similar to help with our entire customer experience? And it's really, really important, as I think everybody's learning, that customers, you can buy everything online. So what brings somebody into a store? They really just want the experience. So if you go into a store and they don't have your size, it's very frustrating. And then you're like, well, gee, I knew it. I just should have ordered online, and I could try it on and then send it back. So these are the things we have to constantly iterate on and think about, and how do we solve those problems?
Yeah, making sure that you deliver when the customer does come to the store is a lot more critical.
Well, I
Absolutely.
think, and difficult to some
Yeah.
degree. So Norm, is that pretty much from a value-oriented perspective? Is that That the kind of issue that keeps you up at night? the
Yeah,
innovation?
I would just say that, well, it's fascinating to listen to all the different perspectives and how, they're so far ahead of us. But what's fun about it is, we've got some opportunity here because technology is not near as expensive as it used to be. There's a lot of options, but we just got to figure out how to do the experience and how to do the technology and do it right. So we're just in the process of, okay, what do we do? And when I say do it right, stay within our model, because we are a value provider, so we got to stay within our model. Our stores are profitable. We want to make sure we keep them that way.
And I think what Kelly said is really important is that you want to have technology make it fun for the client, not turn it into a commodity business. And say what you want about Amazon, they're a juggernaut without question, but they have turned a lot of aspects into commodities, and we never want our business to be that. We're still in the fashion business. We want newness. We don't want people just to constantly buy the same thing over and over again. We want them to try something new and unique, and that's the way that technology can help do that, is to really bridge that gap between the newness and the easiness, but the cool and make it fun, and make it no matter what level you are. If you've just got an iPhone for the first time and you're 70, or if you're 14 and you can program the damn thing, right? So either way, I think it's really critical to be able to, how do you bring all those facets together?
Joe, you're in one of the most quickly evolving spaces, the drugstore space.
Yeah.
What's keeping you up at night now?
I would say it's the compression that we're seeing, and we've all talked about speed, right? At the rate of change of how things are moving, and so I think we're thinking really hard about that. If you're following, there's a lot of mergers happening between insurance companies, prescription benefits managers, and so forth. Again, I mentioned it's Byzantine. People have talked about Amazon getting in the business. Our CEO, Stefano Pessina, has said they'd be crazy to get in this business. It's brutal. But what's happening is we're having those compression challenges. My 10,000 stores right now represent the second largest cost for Walgreens. It's $3.2 billion a year in run rate. That's a lot of money. And so the challenge is how do we remain relevant? How do we right size and do it quickly?
Right. Well, we've only got a few minutes left. Why don't we open it up to a few questions from the audience, if anyone has any. Certainly, I think experience, design. What
Can you catch the microphone?
The panel answer for you guys?
Question for Kelly. Tell us a little bit about the books in the store. One of the reasons why, when I first went in the store in Soho, whatever that was, a couple of years ago, one of the reasons why I stayed there was because of all the cool books that you had, 33 RPM and Catcher in the Rye, and every cool book that you could think of. What was the thought process behind that?
So we have some books that we sell, and then we have all of our display books that you see. Those are real books, and a lot of them are just favorites of the team at Warby. And then we've of course created some books that are just fun, that we do sell for the customers. But reading and eyeglasses often go hand in hand. So hence the library concept, having books, embracing reading. And there's a philanthropic part of our business as well. It's very important to help people see. We've distributed through our Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program over 4 million pairs of glasses to date since our inception, which is huge. And then we have worked with various nonprofits to help children see now. And so now we're selling a whole line of children's glasses, which we first tested in New York City, and now we've actually rolled that out to all of our stores, all 76 at this point. And so, the books just really go hand in hand with our core culture and our brand beliefs, and that reading is very important.
Question for you. So I'm not sure the environment in your stores, you talked about your employees being very important as a key ingredient to the customer experience. Have any of you had the challenge of performance-based or commission-based sales employees and the shift to customer experience? Did you have a challenge there? What was your impact and how did you overcome that?
So we do not have any of our people be commission-based, and it's by design. As I said earlier, we wanted to break that, we call it the glass counter, and not have somebody tell you like, oh, this is the best eye cream, and then next week you walk over and she's like, no, this is the best eye cream, but last week you told me to buy that one. Well, that's because I used to work for Lancome and now I work for Clinique. So none of our folks are. What we do is we spend an exorbitant amount of money on training. We have a university in New York and we have a university in San Francisco, and all of our people go through an extensive amount of training before they ever step foot on the floor, and then they're constantly upgraded, and then they focus on one particular area, be it hair or color or skincare. And it's really important, so when somebody comes in and you say, I want this, they ask questions like, what kind of skin type do you have? Or I can help you figure that out if you don't know. Or how much do you want to spend, 100 or 500? And then this way there's actual knowledge base. And so then when somebody wants that information, they're not thinking, they're just trying to sell me. And so we call it unbiased retail. And it's really, really important to be able to do that. And obviously it would be very simple to move to a commission base and would save us a lot of money. But we don't think it's right for the client. We think we have to make sure that we stand true to be experts, and you can't do that if you're trying to push one thing or one vendor is giving a spiff on that and we're going to go ahead and be behind it. So we have always steered clear of doing that. It's a great question though.
Ditto here. And we let the product in the store work for us, and our employees are there to help the customers.
Yeah, same here, no commission-based sales.
Same.
So thank you for all the insights this morning. It's really interesting to hear the different initiatives that everybody has. Joe, I want to direct my question to you as someone with a mature chain. You said 1901 founded, 10,000 units. How do you prioritize the capital that you're going to spend in a given year against the initiatives that you want to introduce to your stores in terms of how much of your base you can actually touch?
Very carefully. I would say we've divided our program into operating and development, right? So there's some fundamentals that have to happen from a capital perspective just to avoid buying the bucket, Norm, as you said, right? But we have a very disciplined development agenda that's led by a very, very senior executive with WBA, Walgreens Boots Alliance. And so the team focuses on those particular initiatives. I mentioned Gainesville. That was a very large investment. And from there, we have it prioritized. So how do we get broadband in all of the stores that then allow the tablet to be in every manager, assistant manager's hands? It's those types of approaches. But we kind of looked at it and said, what do we need to do to keep the lights on? What do we need to do to get ahead? And that's the construct.
So unfortunately, we're out of time, but I'd like to really thank you guys for an excellent discussion here to kick off the event.
Appreciate it.
And we have a very diverse group of retailers here. So a lot of these conversations we want to flow into the next sessions and the discussion groups a little bit later on. Joe, you're actually going to be leading a discussion on data-driven decision making.
Right.
Do you want to talk about it? Just get a little sneak peek about what the focus will be for that.
Yeah, I'm really interested, particularly from the retailers in the room, how you're doing what you're doing from a corporate real estate technology perspective. The tease is if you don't have a proper CRE technology platform, you're leaving somewhere between 3 and 6% of your occupancy on the table. This is near and dear to me because that's between $100 and $200 million a year. So it's a real big problem that we're trying to solve.